Ladies and gentlemen, if I had the privilege of standing before you today, years after emerging from the ashes of Auschwitz, after decades of therapeutic work and reflection, I would not begin with theories, but with a truth forged in suffering. Life holds meaning under all circumstances, even when it appears absurd, even when it is filled with pain, especially then. This is not a comforting platitude. It is an empirical observation born of gas chambers and silent prayers, of human cruelty and human courage. It is a truth I have lived. Let us speak today not merely of purpose in the abstract, but of your purpose, real, concrete, living, and the infinite ways in which it may be discovered, even now, even here. Permit me to return briefly to that place where my understanding of human meaning was shattered, then, slowly, rebuilt. In the concentration camps, we were robbed of everything. Our clothes, our names, our families, our futures. We were reduced to pure existence, bare life, stripped to the bone. And yet, there remained one thing they could not take from us, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances. This is not a small freedom. It is the core of what makes us human. I recall standing in the pre-dawn darkness, shivering, hungry, uncertain if I would survive another day. Around me, others coughed, prayed, wept, or simply stared into the void. In those moments, life asked me a question. Will you surrender to despair, or will you affirm life, even now? Purpose was not something I imagined in the distance. It was something that emerged in the next step, the next choice, the next thought. It was in refusing to give in to hatred, in comforting a fellow prisoner, in choosing not to become what our oppressors had become. Even in that hell, the human soul remained capable of dignity. What I wish to convey to you, with all the urgency and humility I possess, is that meaning is not generic. There is no single purpose of life for all people. Rather, there is your purpose, the specific meaning of your life at this moment, in your current situation with your unique capacities and circumstances. Meaning is not an abstract concept to be philosophized about in ivory towers. It is a concrete task, something life asks of you, and only you can answer. Some of you may find meaning in your creative work, in building something that did not exist before. Some will find it in love, in the devotion to another person's growth, their joy, their existence. Others will find it in suffering, transforming pain into insight, tragedy into transcendence. You must not ask, "What is the meaning of life?" as if it were a riddle written in the stars. You must ask, "What does life expect of me? Today, in this very hour?" And then, quietly, begin to respond. There are three human experiences often seen as the enemies of happiness: suffering, guilt, and death. What I call the tragic triad. But these are not enemies of meaning. On the contrary, they are the very conditions under which meaning becomes most necessary and most powerful. Suffering becomes meaningful when it is unavoidable and faced with courage. When we suffer nobly, we do not lose our dignity, we deepen it. We become capable of compassion, of solidarity, of a kind of strength that pleasure alone can never provide. Guilt becomes meaningful when we take responsibility for our actions, when we atone, grow, and transform our character. Without the capacity for guilt, there is no moral development. Death becomes meaningful when it reminds us that time is precious, that every choice matters, that there is urgency in how we live, love, and serve. So do not fear these things. They are not the end of meaning. They are often its beginning. In my therapeutic practice, I developed what I call logotherapy, from the Greek logos, meaning meaning. It is based on the belief that man's primary motivational force is not pleasure or power, but meaning. When a person suffers from anxiety, depression, or despair, it is often not because of what they have experienced, but because they have lost sight of why they endure. Let me tell you of a patient, an elderly physician whose wife had died. He was inconsolable, immersed in grief. I asked him, "What would have happened if you had died first, and your wife had survived you?" He answered, "That would have been terrible. She would have suffered greatly." And then I said, "You see, doctor, you are now sparing her that suffering, and in doing so, you must suffer in her place." Suddenly, his grief had meaning. It did not erase the pain, but it transformed it. He no longer saw himself as a victim of fate, but as someone bearing a burden of love. This is the power of purpose. It does not remove suffering, but it redeems it. In our modern age, many suffer not from physical hunger, but from existential vacuum, a gnawing emptiness, a sense that nothing matters. They are caught in what I call the Sunday neurosis, a kind of malaise that arises when work stops and one confronts the silence of one's own soul. People seek distractions, consumption, entertainment, fleeting pleasure, but these are not substitutes for meaning, they are anesthetics. And when they wear off, the emptiness returns. We have never been so free and never so lost. The answer is not to numb ourselves further, but to accept the burden of freedom, to choose purpose again and again, even in the face of uncertainty. As I mentioned earlier, I once dreamed that on the western coast of the United States there should stand a monument, the Statue of Responsibility, because if liberty gives us freedom to act, responsibility reminds us that freedom is not license, it is a summons. We are not free from meaning, we are free for meaning. You are not here to ask, "What do I want from life?" You are here to ask, "What does life want from me?" This shift, from self-centered questioning to responsibility-centered living, is the axis upon which meaning turns. And above all, I must speak of love, not romantic sentiment, but the profound act of beholding another person in their full humanity. Love is the only way to truly see another. When I saw my wife's face in my mind while in the camp, I understood she was present, even in absence. Her existence gave mine a purpose that no amount of degradation could extinguish. To love is to bear witness to another's suffering and potential, to say, "I see you, I choose you, you matter," even if the one you love is no longer living. Their presence can continue to inspire your purpose. Let me ask you, what truth are you avoiding? What gift are you withholding from the world? What person needs your love? What suffering demands your courage? What part of your soul remains asleep? You do not need to change the world, but you must respond to it. Start small. Start now. A word of encouragement, a silent act of forgiveness, a moment of presence with your child, these are acts of purpose, and do not wait until you feel ready. Purpose is not born from comfort, it is born from answering life's call in the midst of fear. Let me leave you with the guiding principle I offered earlier. Live as if you were living for the second time and as if you had acted wrongly the first time. If you could do it again, what would you choose differently? Would you live more bravely? Would you speak more truthfully? Would you love more deeply? You still have time. This is your second chance. This moment, this breath, is life asking you a question. Do not leave it unanswered. Thank you. May you go forth with courage, clarity, and commitment. The world needs your purpose. And you, whether you know it or not, are already becoming the answer. Please share in the comments below, have you already found your purpose in life? What is it? And is it strong enough that you can bear any suffering?